Hi, Democrats. Today is Friday, June 30th, and it's time for the Chair's Daily Live. It's Friday, and it's Friday in June, which means that we keep getting pelted with insulting decisions from the United States Supreme Court. Every day, it feels like we've been hearing about someone else's rights being taken away by the Supreme Court. Every day, it feels like we are being dragged back into the 1970s or the 1950s every day. And so what's happening today? Well, let's see, yesterday, I let you know how I felt about the affirmative action decision when you're trying to consider diversity, not to consider race. I'm still trying to wrap my head around the mental gymnastics that they did to deny access, to deny opportunity. But that wasn't enough. That wasn't enough. So this morning I turn on the news and the first thing I hear is that the Supreme Court codified discrimination against a protected class. The Supreme Court said it is okay for a public business, for someone in business, to deny service to a protected class. So the hypothetical suggestion that was put before the Supreme Court, where they said, what if I'm a web designer and I'm willing to do work for gay people, but I don't believe in gay marriage, and so I don't want to build a website for a gay couple their wedding. And the Supreme Court said, oh, okay, well, you don't have to, because that's a significant difference. You don't have to. They codified discrimination against a protected class, not based on a real life situation, but based on a hypothetical. I think that's unprecedented, but that's what they've done. Denying access, denying opportunity. Student loan debt forgiveness. They struck down Biden's plan to provide relief to folks who are struggling with, and be clear, we're talking about folks who are struggling with student loan debt. And his plan was pretty simple. Nobody making 125 grand or more than that qualifies. It's for people who make $75,000 or less. And depending on their degree and all that kind of stuff, they were either getting 10,000 forgiven or 20,000 forgiven. And the Supreme Court said, no, that's not fair. That's not fair. And so nobody should be given relief, even though we all know that the formula for tuition is so much more crippling than it was even when I went to college. In the 80s, the Pell Grant covered 80% of your tuition. Today, fewer people qualify for the Pell Grant, and it covers less than a third of tuition. And so it's not an apples to apples situation. And when we talk about what's fair, look, I don't have student loan debt. I paid off all my student loan debt. But that doesn't mean that I don't see other people struggling, and I don't feel for other people who are struggling. And I don't think that we need to reform the system because we need to stop putting people in crippling debt. But B, folks who got caught in that trap where we said, go get a college degree so you can afford a better life. They went and got a college degree and they're not necessarily making more money. They got caught in this trap that we set up, and we're saying, tough luck. But the president is still offering some sort of relief with the on-ramp program, which I'm going to have you do the research because I'll be here forever trying to explain it. But the on-ramp program still offers some relief. And I only mention it because I think it's important to mention that even when the Supreme Court is doing their shenanigans, President Joe Biden is still looking for a way to help folks. Still looking for a way to eke out some help for people who need relief. And here's the thing. Access and opportunity denied is what the Supreme Court is handing down yesterday, what they're handing down today. With student loan debt forgiveness, it actually hurts certain people more. On average, men owe $18,000 in student loan debt, which sounds like a lot to me. It's more than I paid for the car I drive right now. Women, on average, owe $22,000 in student loan debt. That's more. Black women, on average, owe $37,000 in student loan. That's more than twice what men owe. And educators, on average, owe about $58,000 in student loan debt. And so it does affect some parts of our society more than it affects others. And so this is absolutely about access and opportunity denied. And this is why it makes me angry. This is why it makes me angry. I told you yesterday, I am a proud Democrat, and what we believe in, access to well-funded education, access to healthcare, and access to economic opportunity. And 2 days straight, the United States Supreme Court smacked down access. So if you didn't hear me yesterday, or you've met me and somehow didn't hear me say this, every election counts. Not just the ones that someone convinces you in the moment counts. Every election matters. Every election. I'll remind you, the U.S. Senate confirms the Supreme Court justices. In Oklahoma, our U.S. senators are Markwayne Mullin. We have a difference in politics, so let's have an actual fight. Markwayne Mullin and James Lankford. I can't get away from the Texas border unless I'm, going to quote some Bible verses at you about why 13-year-olds should give birth. That's who Oklahoma has sent to D.C. to represent us. Every election matters. So while you're thinking it's not that big of a deal, they're in D.C. and it doesn't really affect me, I'm going to pay attention to this race. We sent someone who's voting for people who are trying to take the rights of all manner of people, who are trying to limit who has access to the American dream, who are trying to deny access to the American dream. Every election matters. In 2024, all 5 of our congressional seats are up. All 5 of our congressional seats are up. Keep in mind, one congressman and one that used to be a congressman, now is a senator, took PPP loans and had them forgiven, but aren't okay with student loan debt forgiveness. That's who we sent to DC. All 5 of our congressional seats are open. All 5 of them will be on the ballot in 2024. Please vote carefully. All 101 of our state house seats are going to be on the ballot in 2024. Half of our state Senate seats will be on the ballot in 2024. Countless county clerks, county commissioners, county assessors and treasurers, mayors and sheriffs will be on the ballot in 2024. Don't sleep. Don't think that it doesn't matter. Don't think that your vote doesn't matter, doesn't count, because it does. And we need folks to participate, not complain about it. I get to complain about it because I vote every time. Not just sit back and complain about it, but actually do something. Do the research and vote. Do the research and educate someone and take them with you. This is going to keep happening. They're going to keep eroding our rights. They're going to keep taking back our rights and keep taking us further and further back. Just in the last 365 days, They've overturned 2 bills that that were passed in 1973. It makes me feel like they want to go back to the time before 1973. The Civil Rights Act wasn't signed until 1965. They want to go back to a very different time. They want to go back to where only certain people felt free to be who they were, wherever they were. In our state, they're trying to limit who can get what kind of education. Again, they're trying to put folks in their place. That's an ugly, ugly statement, but it is the truth. They're trying to put folks in their place. Every election matters. So don't be mad about what's happening here, because they're doing exactly what they told us they were going to do. What we needed to do was vote for someone who wouldn't allow it. It's not too late. There's still a whole bunch of rights that they can still take away from us if we let them. Do your research. Maybe you want to run. Maybe you know somebody who needs to run. We have to change who represents us in Oklahoma. Our rights are at stake. All righty. I felt like that was a fitting message as we go into Independence Day weekend. And it is weekend for me because I won't be back here until July 5th. But our rights are at stake. We have to get involved and protect them. And on that, I will say, have a wonderful long weekend, but recognize what you're celebrating on July 4th. And I'll be back here on July 5th. You guys have a great weekend.